Hello everyone. I hope all are doing good. Belated New Year wishes first of all to everybody. It's been a long time since we all had a session due to admissions that were happening, and we were so busy on that we were not able to focus on the content. So let's get started. So we were doing human physiology. We completed 3 chapters. Now we are going to get into the next easiest chapter of the human physiology. It is digestion and absorption. This we are learning since lower classes. And with respect to NEET, you can expect maximum of 2 questions. One question definitely will be from the process of digestion. They can ask you about the contents of the enzymes and what are the functions of the enzymes. Sometimes they can ask you about the structure of a gland that is present. So all that are possible questions from the process of digestion. That is a definite question. The other one can be either from histology of alimentary canal, so that takes the first priority for the second question. The second topic that can be asked would be about digestive glands, that too especially about the liver. They can ask you about the formation of the ducts and all that, and they can ask you about the miscellaneous topics, like they can ask you about the protein energy malnutrition that is frequently appearing in almost every mock paper, and they can sometimes no they can ask you about the vomiting center location, and then they can sometimes ask you about the stone formation and all that. So mostly question will revolve only around the topics that I'm going to take. So this chapter has been divided into 3 parts. The first part will be dealing about histology of alimentary canals and digestive glands. The second part, the process of digestion, and the last part, miscellaneous. So let's get started without any delay. The first one we are going to talk about is histology of alimentary canal. So I hope you all know what is the meaning of histology. So I don't want to get into details about histology. So basically, it is study of tissues. So I take a piece of tissue and I'm going to stain using some adequate stain, and I'm going to study it under a microscope, and that study is called as histology. So when I take a piece of tissue from the alimentary canal, right from the mouth till the anus, what are the structures that I'm going to appreciate and what are the peculiar points about each of those? That is an important aspect. I'll tell you what is the important question that can be asked also. So this is a picture that can explain you about the histology of alimentary canal. So from the outer aspect to the inner aspect, right? So we have the first layer called as serosa, the second layer called as muscularis, third layer called as submucosa, fourth layer called as mucosa. These are the 4 layers that we are going to study under the histology. So this is my outermost layer and this is my innermost layer. So with respect to serosa, I have nothing much to discuss. It is just the outermost layer which is going to actually make up the epithelium of the concerned organ. So if I say liver or stomach, so whatever I'm going to appreciate outside, so the moment I just dissect a human body and I'm just trying to take any of the organ, the layer that I see is serosa, that in turn contains the epithelium of that particular organ. And it has got some amount of connective tissue, but not that important point. It has got some amount of connective tissues. So I have just put a down arrow mark stating that the content is going to be less. The second layer is about the muscularis. Muscularis layer, one possible thing, so if suppose the questions are asked, uh, no, when a statement based question, which of the following statements are true with respect to histology, false with respect to histology, at that point of time you get questions involving options containing muscularis. So what is the only thing that they ask is, now you all know any viscera is made up of smooth muscles. In the no organs of alimentary canal, the smooth muscle is being arranged into 2 layers, an outer layer and then an inner layer. So the smooth muscle is arranged into an outer layer and then inner layer. Outer layer, if you take, it is called as longitudinal layer, and the inner is called as circular layer. This is very important. So they ask you In the statement based question, they can just twist these two. They can give outer circular, inner longitudinal. It is the other way around. It is outer longitudinal and inner circular. So this thin portion is my serosa. These two are my muscularis layer. Now the third layer we're going to talk about is the submucosa. Nothing much significant there. It is containing all your blood vessels. It is containing your veins. I mean blood vessels, that includes arteries and veins. And also it contains some amount of lymphatic vessels, etc. And the most important thing that you must know is it has abundant connective tissues. It has got a decent amount of connective tissues. So it's about submucosa. There is one exception that we will attribute to submucosa. I'll tell you that. Before that, we need to get into details about mucosa. So with respect to mucosa, what are the things that you already know? That it is the innermost layer. So this is a picture that is going to explain some structures about mucosa. Before that, let us try to understand one point about mucosa. If you appreciate the mucosal layer, it has been thrown into so many folds. So even if you appreciate the structure, you're able to appreciate that it has got so many folds like this, right? So all these folds are nothing but the mucosal folds. So these folds, I call it as rugae. So rugae means it is the irregular foldings of your mucosa. Irregular foldings of mucosa. Now, on this rugae, you will be able to appreciate some finger-like projections, and those finger-like projections, I call it as villi. You would have studied even in nephrons, the PCT contains bridge border epithelium. So what is that bridge border epithelium is? Presence of numerous villi that in turn will divide into so many branches called microvilli. So this is the typical brush border appearance. So in areas where there has to be more amount of absorption, that we all will have brush border kind of epithelium. So if you observe this picture, this green color cells, this is what is actually your villi. And inside your villi, if you take, we have got an artery, right? It is mentioned here, and we have got some veins, and we have got some lymphatic vessel, and that lymphatic vessel I call it as lacteals. This is a very important lymphatic channel, as it will help in fat absorption. So this is a picture that is going to depict lacteals, which are the lymphatic vessels that in turn helps in fat absorption. And it is containing so many microvilli, that is altogether it is going to increase the surface area for absorption. Now, one more important point that you need to know about mucosa is all your digestive glands, or the glands that is going to help in your process of digestion, are mucosal glands. So you would have studied something called salivary glands. You have studied something called gastric glands. You have studied something called intestinal glands. So all these glands, ultimately it is going to give out some secretions, right? So where are these secretions coming from? It is from the mucosal layer. So if I take a piece of stomach, okay, just take a piece of stomach tissue, and I'm observing under the microscopes, I'll be able to appreciate the serosa, then followed by two layers of muscularis. Then I'll be able to appreciate submucosa. In the submucosa, I might have some blood vessels, I can have some venous structures and all. Next, innermost aspect, if you take, I'm going to have mucosal layer. Inside this mucosal layer is what we are going to observe. We are going to observe lots of gastric glands. So, whatever secretions, I hope you all know, you have studied in lower classes like pepsinogen, all these are from gastric glands, and that is present in the mucosal layer of the stomach. So, almost all the glands are present in mucosa except one gland, that is your duodenal glands, or the name that is given to it is called as Brunner's gland. Very important question. So finally, we are coming to one high yield question, that is Brunner's gland. So there can be two possible types of NEET questions. One is all of the glands are mucosal except, or which of the following is a submucosal gland. Either of these way question can be put. So ultimately our answer should be Brunner's gland, which is present in the submucosa. So in typical alimentary canal structures, the submucosa will mostly contain abundant no quantity of connective tissue with some blood vessels and veins and then some lymph. But here in case of no duodenum, the Brunner's gland is going to be present at the submucosa, right? So this is the point that you must know. This is one high yield question. The other possible question that can be asked is which of the following statements are true with respect to villi? They are known to increase the surface area of absorption. Then they have got a specific lymphatic channel, and that lymphatic channel is called as lacteals. And then they have got some irregular foldings called as rugae. So these are the points that you must know with respect to mucosa, brush border appearance, right? So this is with respect to histology of alimentary canal. So just know uh, how the layers are arranged from the outer to inner aspect or from inner to outer aspect. Again, twist can be here. They can ask you from outer to inner or inner to outer. We should not make such blunder mistakes. Read the question and try to understand whether he has asked from outer to inner or inner to outer, right? And then answer. And they can ask you something on villi, or they can ask you about the Brunner's gland, or they can ask you about the muscularis layer sometimes, right? So this is with respect to histology as a simplified version of histology. Now getting on to the next important concept is digestive glands. I do not want to discuss about each and every digestive gland, telling you what it is all about. You all know. Only thing that I wanted to discuss personally is about the liver and the associated ducts, as I said, because that is the examiner's favorite part. They keep asking you that very often. We'll just try to understand that. So liver, you all know it is going to help in the digestion of fat by secreting bile. So in this diagram, we do not have liver. So just few points about liver. You should first know about what is the functional unit of liver. The functional unit of liver is something called as hepatic globules. These hepatic globules in turn contain hepatic cells. These hepatic cells are going to secrete bile. We'll shortly study about bile. As of now, know this. So what is happening is, here you have got liver. It's like a teardrop, but never mind. From the liver, so you have got hepatic cells that keep secreting bile, and that bile is carried away by the hepatic ducts. So from liver, you have got some ducts that is just going to carry all the bile, send some bile via your duct called as cystic duct to the gallbladder. Let me give you a simple form of a line diagram and then we'll come to this picture. Okay, if I just directly teach you with this picture, it is difficult. So say suppose this is my duodenum. So small intestine is the ultimate site where all the secretions are going to be put. This is my final destination, right? Duodenum. So I'll just write it as duodenum. Yes. Now here I have got liver. What is the source of it? What I mean, what it is going to secrete? It is going to secrete bile. So this bile is carried, I'll just draw it with black, by some ducts, and that ducts I call it as hepatic ducts. And here I have got gallbladder. See, actually, if you take, these are not two different structures, okay? In the sense, they are not located at two different positions. If you take from the front side, if you just make a person stand right to your opposite side, and if you are just trying to examine the liver, what you see is your front aspect of your liver. Okay, so anterior side or the ventral aspect or the front side of your liver, that will be typically something like this. Now, I'm just imagine I have just taken the liver from that person who is standing opposite to me, and I'm just turning it anti-clockwise. I'm just turning it this direction. So what I will observe is something like this now. Right? I've just tilted it, and on that posterior aspect or the dorsal aspect, I have got some depression exclusively for gallbladder. So if you take the location of gallbladder, it is not separately present. It is right at the liver only. So at the dorsal aspect, I have got a depression where this gallbladder is located. But to understand the formation of duct and how it is present, I have just taken this piece and I have just shown you separately like this, right? So we have got gallbladder, and the duct that is arising from gallbladder, I call it as cystic duct. Okay, I call it as cystic duct. So what is going to happen is this cystic duct is going to be the common passage for both entry and exit of bile. So what I am trying to tell here is liver produces bile, and the main role of gallbladder is to just store it, right? Main role of gallbladder is just storage. So whatever bile is going to come from the liver, it is taken away by this hepatic duct, and it is just traveling all the way inside to your gallbladder. Now, when there is a need, okay, when there is a need of bile, the other way will happen. Now, exit will happen now. Okay, I'll just draw the cystic duct again. So, whatever bile that has been stored will start coming out. And from the hepatic ducts, bile is also going to come. Since the demand is more, what will happen is these both will become friends now. Cystic duct and hepatic duct are going to become friend, and they are going to extend downwards as a common bile duct. Common, it is common to both sources, right? It is either if it is from liver or from gallbladder, it is a common source. So it is common bile duct, which is formed as a fusion of hepatic duct plus cystic duct. They can ask you all these mathematical concepts. Okay. This common bile duct is going to descend downwards. There we have got one more enemy, that is your pancreas. You just imagine this is your pancreas. This pancreas is going to send some duct, that is your pancreatic duct. So before this common bile duct enters into the duodenum, it is also going to receive its friend called as pancreatic duct. So this is my pancreatic duct, and this is my common bile duct. So these both are going to form a unique duct, and that duct is called as hepatopancreatic duct. So this is going to pour both the liver secretion as well as pancreas secretion. It's like complicated, right? But I hope I made it simple. So we have got hepatic duct, we have got bile duct, sorry, cystic duct forming common bile duct. So it's like a typical junction. Okay. This is my hepatic duct. This will be my cystic duct. This is common bile duct. It receives pancreatic duct here. And at last it forms a common thing, that is hepatopancreatic duct. So CD, HD forms CBD, CBD, PD forms HP. Simple. Now with this understanding, let's get into this picture. So I have got ducts from the liver, and this is my gallbladder, and duct from a gallbladder comes, and this is called as cystic duct. What is this called? This is called as cystic duct. And I have got ducts from the liver, that is a hepatic duct. Okay, and then it is going to form or fuse together to form what is called as common bile duct. So how is this common bile duct formed? Again, to repeat, it is cystic plus hepatic. So this common bile duct, just trace the pathway. It is just descending downwards. Yes, yes, yes. Very good. This is my duodenum. it is almost piercing the pancreas. Okay, it will just pass via the pancreas. So this entire portion is my pancreas. Okay, if you just observe, this entire portion is my pancreas. And if you take this common bile duct, it is just passing over the pancreas. What is this pancreas telling to this common bile duct? Hey, you are going through me. Then take me also along with you. That is the agreement that has been put by the pancreas. So yes, this common bile duct has no other go. So what it is trying to do, it is trying to take this pancreatic duct with it. So here if you take, it forms something called as hepatopancreatic duct. So it is formed by common bile duct plus your pancreatic duct. So altogether, everything is going to open into the duodenum. Now, the question is, how can both the secretions be poured at the same time? That is not possible. So, which means what? I have got a sphincter that is going to guard the secretion. That sphincter is called as sphincter of Oddi. So, sphincter of Oddi is going to make sure that at a time only one secretion is going to be poured. So, if pancreas is activated more, if your diet is containing less amount of fat, you need not have bile for a longer time. So, the sphincter will close this common bile duct, allow only the pancreas to pass through it. So, it is like that. So, sphincter, I hope you all know what are the functions, right? So, sphincter of Oddi is present in the hepatopancreatic. So with respect to this, the questions that can be asked is formation of common bile duct, formation of hepatopancreatic duct, role of sphincter of Oddi. These are the three possible questions that they can ask. So I hope I made this session clear. I'll meet you in the next session. Thank you all.